SKOL Vikings, let's win this game.
Vikings fans, what's going on in the halls in Minnesota is flat out wild. There's a coach getting serious offers. There's an offensive superstar surrounded by doubt. The most sensitive spot on the roster is still up for debate. In the middle of it all, a defensive signing that has people curious just went down. And at the end, there's a situation that shakes anyone in purple and gold. That last one hurts. But before I break down every piece of this, stick with me for a quick second. Subscribe to the channel, it's free, and it helps this fan space a ton. Hit the like button too. That tells YouTube to push this video to more people in purple and gold. And jump in the comments after. This only works when the whole community is in it together. This is real back and forth. You barely have time to blink and someone is already trying to rip a key piece off our coaching staff. And when the talk starts like that, I get that sour feeling right away. Because it's not just, oh, an interview over there. It's somebody looking at what we built and saying, I want that for myself. The name at the center of this is Brian Flores. And here's the thing you have to notice. This didn't come out of nowhere. Cleveland fired Kevin Stefanski after 6 seasons. And the Browns are already putting together a list of replacements. Mary Kay Cabot in Cleveland put Flores as one of the names they're watching. She also reminded everyone he already interviewed with the Browns in 2023. Back then, it was for the defensive coordinator job. And here's the detail that makes fans scratch their heads. They know Flores runs a lot of 3-4, and Myles Garrett is not exactly the clean, perfect fit for that. Still, the Browns would be putting leadership and culture over scheme. That says a lot about the respect Flores has earned around the league. Disciplined defense, creative, physical, the kind you love when it's on your side. But it doesn't stop with Cleveland. There's also been that Raiders buzz. And I'll admit it gets a little funny. Because Mike Florio floated that Tom Brady could have real influence in that search. And that Brady might want Flores as the head coach, with Brian DeBole as the offensive coordinator. Now on our side, the message has been loud and clear. Kevin O'Connell has said publicly he wants Flores here as long as possible. He said extension talks are happening. He said the dialogue is in a good place. And he said Flo has meant a lot to him. Not just on Sundays, day to day, in those weeks when the team is getting hit with injuries and pressure all at once. And let's be real, the defense carried a lot of weight at different points. So what does this turn into for us? Real anxiety. Because continuity matters, Flores changed the identity of this defense. He made average players look dangerous. He got guys playing hungry, and you don't find that easily. So I'll put it to you straight. If a head coach offer shows up, it's hard to hold him. But if the front office does the job and treats him like a top priority, you can keep him. And you only get this kind of raw, stadium-level read right here, no filter. I'm talking like someone who lives and breathes Vikings football every day. Tell me in the comments what you'd do. Pay to keep Flores no matter what, or accept that he's going to take off. And stay locked in, because the next story hits our offense head on. And it's the kind that shakes the future. Sometimes the problem isn't a lack of talent, it's the clock, and we're looking at this roster thinking, okay, but when does it finally click for real? Because the NFL doesn't wait, and in Minnesota that feeling is getting heavier by the week. The name carrying all that weight is Justin Jefferson. But before we get to him, look at the big picture. The season ended 9-8, no playoffs, and the quarterback position is one giant question mark. A while back, the plan looked clean. Lock up Jefferson with a historic contract. Develop a first-round quarterback for the future. That project is J.J. McCarthy. But the movie hasn't played out the way anyone hoped. McCarthy lost his entire rookie year to a meniscus injury. Now this season, it was 3 different injuries, 7 games missed. When he came back, there were flashes, but there were mistakes too. In just 10 games, he had 10 touchdowns and 11 interceptions. You can understand the context. He's young, banged up, and he didn't have rhythm. But the problem is everything around him. The rest of this team is not rebuilding, and that's where the warning that has people in purple and gold uneasy comes in. Alec Lewis, from The Athletic, put into words what's been hanging in the air. Jefferson's patience isn't endless. He's a fierce competitor. And even so, he had one of the quietest seasons of his career. He cleared 1,000 yards, yes, but he dropped from an absurd pace of nearly 100 yards a game to a little over 60. That doesn't happen for no reason. Quarterback instability matters. McCarthy missed a big chunk of the year, and there was no backup who could steady the offense. The frustration shows up in the little things, the look on his face, the sideline vibes, story after story trying to stir up trade smoke, and that wears you down. Not just the player. The whole locker room feels it. Because when your biggest star starts living in constant frustration, the atmosphere changes. That's why the conversation now is aggression. Diana Rossini has already pointed that direction. The Vikings want to strengthen the quarterback room. Trade, free agency. Not much would be off the table. And when names like Kyler Murray, Mac Jones, or Tua Tagovailoa pop up, the message is clear. You can't just wait for everything to land in McCarthy's lap. But that decision isn't simple. If a ready-made veteran arrives, McCarthy loses ground. If he sits on the bench too long, development stalls. And if you trade him now, you're admitting the original plan changed fast. It's a choice that shapes the direction of the team for years. The core point is this: Jefferson is in his prime, and wasting that with uncertainty would be a massive mistake. Hold on to that tension, because the next story shows the team taking action, and it's action in a place most people were not expecting. You know when you look at the roster and think, we need more guys fighting for a job? Yeah. Even with the year over, the team is already moving pieces. That tells you a lot about how Kwesi works. He doesn't wait for the calendar to give permission. Over the last few days, we've seen the Vikings add more names to the 90-man roster. There was movement on offense. A wide receiver came in, a tight end too, but the real surprise came on the other side of the ball. The signing this time is a guy most people here didn't have on their radar. His name is Jalon Hutchings. Hutchings is coming from the CFL, from the Calgary Stampeders, and it's not a lazy, random flyer move. In 2025, he became a starter for the first time up there, and he played big. 17 games. 39 tackles, 1 forced fumble, and 8 sacks from the inside. For an interior defensive lineman, that's real noise. What stands out is the style. He's the kind of defensive tackle who attacks gaps. He's not just holding blocks. He penetrates, uses powerful hands, and makes life miserable for quarterbacks. And there's a comparison people are making that I get. Some are saying he could be the next Jalen Redmond for us. Similar profile. The kind of guy who shows up quietly and if he fits, becomes a real find. And look at the freaky strength numbers. He even made Bruce Feldman's freaks list. A 500-pound bench press, a 700-pound squat. That's not normal. There's also a fun detail. He played running back in high school. You can see that burst when he fires off the snap. It's like a skill player engine trapped in a lineman's body. Now let's talk like fans. The CFL is not the NFL. I know it. You know it. The transition is brutal. Technique, speed, the playbook, everything changes. But that's the appeal. This kind of signing is a smart lottery ticket. It's low cost. It fills the bottom of the roster. And it can pay off big if the guy wins the fight in camp. I can already hear the stadium talk. Oh great, another name that disappears in August. That can happen. But the Vikings have taken this kind of swing before. Redmond came from an alternative league and became useful depth. Last year they tried it with a CFL offensive tackle. It went sideways with injury. It happens. The point is, the team keeps hunting value where other teams aren't looking. That's defend the North in real life, and I want to hear it from you. Do you like these low-cost swings, or do you only want big names? And here we go. Some topics come right back to your front door even when you swear you already turned the page. The quarterback situation is on fire in Minnesota. And out of nowhere, there's a reunion vibe that messes with the heads of a lot of people in purple and gold. The name behind it is Kirk Cousins. But slow down, this isn't cheap nostalgia. This got momentum because of what happened in Atlanta. After the last game, he said he'll see what the market looks like in March when asked about coming back for another NFL season. Then right after that, the Falcons adjusted his contract in a way that set off alarms. Here's the simple version. They reworked the guarantees in the final years. And that created a clear deadline. Field Yates, from ESPN, said there's a massive guarantee tied to the 2027 season. That guarantee vests on March 13th, and nobody wants to carry that kind of risk without absolute certainty. So a decision on Cousins is likely to come before that date. For a lot of people, that points to a release or a new agreement. And when you see a door like that open, the Vikings get pulled into the conversation immediately. Why does it fit with us? Because our situation is uncertainty with J.J. McCarthy, injuries, no consistent run, and the need for someone ready if the plan doesn't hit. Vikings fans everywhere are split. Some say bring in a veteran right now. Others say let the kid grow. And in that debate, Cousins matters because he knows Kevin O'Connell's system. He knows the locker room too. Jefferson, O'Neal, the whole group. Now let's be honest from a fan perspective. Cousins isn't perfect. He never has been. But he gives you a high floor when he's protected and has weapons. And he's coming off a stretch in Atlanta where he won 5 of his final 7 starts after the team was struggling. He can still steer an offense. That gets attention. But here's the headache part. Would he come back as competition for McCarthy? Would he take a cheaper deal? Or would he show up demanding the job is his? Because with how this team is built, nobody wants to freeze the future out of stubbornness. At the same time, nobody wants to waste another year of Jefferson's prime. That's why this talk is growing so fast. I can hear the bar debate in Minnesota. One guy says he knows everything, bring him back. Another says we've seen that movie. And someone in the middle says, yeah, but what if he's the insurance policy for another injury? That's the confusion hanging in the air. There are moves that feel like they were made to force a decision. And this quarterback situation in Atlanta has exactly that vibe. It's not just they restructured it and that's that. It's a change that puts a date on the calendar and says, either you settle it or you break it. The central figure is Kirk Cousins. But I'm not talking about this like it's some romantic reunion with Minnesota. This is business. This is need. This is a win-now window. And it's also Cousins trying to extend his career the smartest way possible. The Falcons restructured the deal and set a clear deadline, March 13th. The reason is simple. There's a huge guarantee for the 2027 season that kicks in on that day. If the Falcons don't want to take that risk, they have to act before then. The most common read is Atlanta could release Cousins to get salary cap relief. And then, man, when a veteran at that level becomes available, the Vikings are in the mix immediately. Our problem is obvious: quarterback stability. So where could it actually make real sense? Cousins knows Kevin O'Connell's scheme. That's not a small detail. He has already run this offense. He knows where the ball has to go. He knows the routine. He knows the locker room. There's respect there. That cuts down the learning curve and avoids that early season offense trying to find itself. And there's another point people don't always say out loud. Cousins has already lived a similar situation recently, sharing a quarterback room with a young, highly drafted quarterback, so he wouldn't be walking in blind. He could compete with J.J. McCarthy, and at the same time, he could be a daily reference point. That matters, because McCarthy needs health, rhythm, and confidence. And the Vikings need a plan B that doesn't sink the team at the first stumble. But here's the thorny part. Would Cousins accept that role? Because nobody here wants to bring in a veteran just to block the kid's growth. The ideal scenario for the Vikings is clear. McCarthy wins the job in camp. Cousins becomes one of the best backups in the league. And if he has to play, he keeps the ship steady. But that takes maturity from both sides. Cousins has to accept he might not own anything anymore, and the Vikings have to manage it without splitting the room. There's also Cousins' side of it. He's getting close to 38. He might want one more big check. He might want a place that promises him the starting job with no debate. But being straight about it, opportunities like that don't show up easily at this stage. And if he wants a spot with a built-out offense, weapons, and a coach he already knows, Minnesota becomes a real option. For anyone who lives and breathes Vikings football every day, the feeling is this: the quarterback choice will decide whether 2026 is a leap forward or another year of frustration. And this Falcons move may have poured gasoline on the debate in Minnesota. And without calling it the end or anything like that, I'll tell you this. What we do with these 5 stories together can change the mood of the entire season. Because when a coach is being hunted, when an offensive star is on alert, when an alternative league defensive signing shows up, and when the quarterback ghost comes back, it's a sign the Vikings are at a crossroads. Man, put all of this together and you can feel the weight on this team's shoulders. Brian Flores getting courted messes with the identity of our defense. Justin Jefferson is a superstar, but nobody can live on promises forever. The Jalen Hutchings signing shows the Vikings are digging for answers where most teams aren't looking. And when Kirk Cousins comes back into the conversation, it's because the quarterback wound is still wide open. I'll plant a flag on this. 2026 cannot be a we'll see year. It has to be a year of bold choices. And choices with a plan, not choices made out of panic. Because this fan base in purple and gold has watched talent slip away when direction disappears. Drop your take in the comments. This space belongs to everyone who lives and breathes Vikings football, and I want to hear you. Do you keep Flores no matter what and bring in a veteran to push McCarthy, or do you go all in on the kid's development? Stay tuned. SKOL Vikings, let's go!